good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer, Keith one-time Thurman, came back off a 2.5-year hiatus, came back and fought WBA junior welterweight regular champion Mexican star boxer Mario Barrios this February 5th of this year. 2 Saturdays ago, Keith Thurman made his ring return. Keith Thurman is now 30 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 22 wins by way of knockout. He is 33 years of age, 5'7" with a 69-inch arm reach. With that said, Keith Thurman, he got a unanimous decision victory over Mario Barrios. Now, with that said, Keith Thurman, everybody wonders what's next. Keith Thurman has fought a total of 3 times in 5 years. So Keith Thurman is expected to be more active, okay? Everybody is wondering if Keith Thurman is going to stay active, okay? Keith Thurman, he unified the titles back in March of 2017 against 2-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia. But then from March of 2017 to January of 2019, Keith Thurman was inactive, okay? He came back, he fought Josito Lopez. He looked vulnerable in the fight. Then he fought against Manny Pacquiao, legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer, and he lost. He lost his WBA title. Now, in the mix of that, during the 2-year hiatus, he lost his WBC title due to inactivity, okay? And so with that said, Keith Thurman, he went on another hiatus after his July 2019 showdown in which he lost to Manny Pacquiao. He went on another hiatus, and he made his ring return February 5th of this year against Mario Barrios, in which, again, Keith Thurman has shown more vulnerabilities and ring rust in this fight. So everybody's wondering what's next for Keith Thurman. Well, undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO reigning welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Terence Crawford, 38 wins, no losses, no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout, 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm. November 20th of 2021, he fought the biggest fight of his career against 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter, a rival of Keith Thurman. And Terence Crawford, he did what no other boxer can do, no other opponent of Shawn Porter. He dropped Shawn Porter twice in the 10th round, ultimately got the stoppage victory over Shawn Porter. So with that said, Keith Thurman, he stated he wasn't impressed by Shawn Porter, Terence Crawford fight. He said that Terence Crawford showed a lot of vulnerabilities himself. He stated that he did show that he could close the show, but at the end of the day, he stated that, he wasn't overly impressed by Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford wasn't the boogeyman, okay? And so with that said, he stated that give him 8 months and he'll be ready to fight Terence Crawford, which at the time he stated that in November, that would put him on par to fight Terence Crawford in July, okay? Now, he fought Mario Barrios. He won the fight. In post-fight press conference, he was asked about a possible fight with him and Terence Crawford, in which Keith Thurman, he stated that it's a business and it has to make business sense when it comes to Terence Crawford. He has to get, the percentages and the splits correct, and then he'll agree to fight Terence Crawford, okay? Now, Keith Thurman fight was on pay-per-view against Mario Barrios, in which a lot of fans, they had an issue that this fight was not the level of fight that should be featured on pay-per-view. And Keith Thurman, he defended why the fight should be on pay-per-view. He stated groceries went up, water went up, and fights that used to be free, now you have to pay for, regardless of the level of opponents and the level of the fight and the magnitude of the fight. Well, Keith Thurman had been pegged to be a bigger star than Terence Crawford. And Keith Thurman, he did a fight with Mario Barrios, and it reportedly did 50,000 pay-per-view buys. That's lower than Terence Crawford's numbers, okay? So we know the PBC, Premier Boxing Champion, founder and advisor Al Heyman, they work with Keith Thurman. And we know spokesman Tim Smith, he stated that there isn't a lot of money for Terence Crawford to fight against Errol Spence Jr. in the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. So he stated that, we don't know what the direction will be for Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. because Terence Crawford is simply not made to be a big pay-per-view star, and there's no money there. Well, Terence Crawford, his first pay-per-view, did 60,000 pay-per-view buys with Victor Postal in his very first pay-per-view. Keith Thurman already did a pay-per-view with Manny Pacquiao. So this is not the first time he was featured on pay-per-view. But many people were claiming that Keith Thurman is a much bigger star than Terence Crawford because of the numbers that Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman did, about 500,000 pay-per-view buys, okay? Well, it showed now with Keith Thurman fighting Mario Barrios, it only did 50,000 pay-per-view buys. So that means Manny Pacquiao made up for 450,000 of the pay-per-view buys for their fight, okay? So Terence Crawford, pay-per-view, 60,000. Second pay-per-view with Amir Khan, 150,000. Third pay-per-view with Sean Porter, 190,000. So it's clear that Terence Crawford is the A side. So now these numbers come out and it shows that, it didn't do very well. Keith Thurman, he was, egging the fans on to buy the fight, pay for the pay-per-view, and it just didn't do very well at all. So now Keith Thurman, he decides now to call out Terence Crawford, and he says that he's waiting for Terence Crawford to send him the contract. Well, we know Terence Crawford currently is a network promotional free agent because Terence Crawford, after his fight with Showtime Sean Porter, Terence Crawford parted ways with his longtime promoter and legendary promoter in Bob Arum, Top Rank, and ESPN. Now he's a network promotional free agent, and Terence Crawford decided to take Top Rank and Bob Arum to court, citing that they just didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and he lost tens of millions of dollars because they weren't willing to promote him and didn't know how to promote African-American fighters and didn't have much interest in doing so either. So he's taking them to court and he's suing them for $10 million. So he doesn't have a network and a promotional company in which he could feature the fight on, okay? So that will have to come in the form of the PBC. Now, what's interesting to note here is that Terence Crawford, he did an interview today and he stated that, the powers that be are the ones that prevented the biggest fight happening between himself and undefeated, unified WBC, IBF, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who was widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and Earl the True Spence Jr., who's 27 wins, no losses, no draw, 21 wins by way of knockout, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach at 31 years of age. He stated the powers that be don't want to see him walking on their side of the street, a one-fight deal, fight and possibly beat Errol Spence and take all the belts and walk off into the sunset. So they want compensation, meaning that they want Terence Crawford to give them more fights, more commitments, okay? And this could possibly be the commitment, the Keith Thurman fight. Keith Thurman, again, stated that he wanted to fight in July. Now, we know Terence Crawford also was asked in that interview what's his next plans, and he stated that they have some opponents that they're looking at in the possible future, since Errol Spence is going into a massive unification bout with WBA, World Boxing Association, welterweight world champion, Cuban star boxer Yordenis Ugas, who is 27 wins, 4 losses, no draws, 12 wins by way of knockout, 35 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 69-inch arm reach, okay? So with that said, that's scheduled to take place April 16th in Arlington, Texas, AT&T Dallas Cowboys Stadium, and 3 belts will be on the line: the WBC, the IBF, and the WBA. Okay, so 3 belts will be on the line, and so Errol Spence is tied up. So you got to figure and factor in the winner of that fight won't be ready for another 3 to 4 months before they get back in the ring. So you say they fight in April, so you got to say they won't be ready to get back in the ring till August. Okay, so meantime, Terence Crawford, he fought November 20th against Sean Porter. That's a long time to stay out the ring, so he's looking to stay active. Now, Keith Thurman stated he wanted to fight. Terence Crawford had initially responded and said, why does Keith Thurman have to wait so long to make this fight happen? He's just simply not confident in himself and his abilities. Well, it seems like now Keith Thurman is more than eager to make the fight happen with Terence Crawford, and it seems like it's the perfect storm for Terence Crawford because the PBC is looking for compensation, okay? They're looking for a commitment from Terence Crawford. So what better way? He commits, fights Keith Thurman, and then on the back end, they promise him the Errol Spence fight. So he beats Errol Spence beats Yordenis Ugas. He fights and beats Keith Thurman. They're looking to build up Terence Crawford as a pay-per-view star to be able to sell the Errol Spence fight. And we know Keith Thurman, should he be victorious, well, that makes sense for him to fight Errol Spence as well. So it only lines up, and it makes sense that Terence Crawford, he can miss a 2-fight deal with the PBC, that being a big fight with Keith Thurman, and then a fight with Errol Spence in the future, and then he could sail off into the sunset. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But Keith Thurman, he tells Terence Crawford now, after finding out his pay-per-views did only 50,000 pay-per-view buys, underwhelming is an understatement. But most people understood and knew that this was coming because it's just simply not a big fight. So with that said, he's proven to not be a bigger star than Terence Crawford. And this is a way that the PBC can get what they want. Compensation for Terence Crawford's services to fight Errol Spence. Terence Crawford could get the 2 fights that he's been seeking out. He already got one with Sean Porter. He wanted the Keith Thurman fight. Now it presents itself. And then he could get the Errol Spence fight on the back end for a massive undisputed showdown. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue. Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Raw. Make sure you like and share the videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.